My name is Ashok Veeraraghavan. I'm the chair of Electrical and Computer Engineering, and I'm going to take the next 10 minutes giving you a quick walkthrough of the research that I do in the lab. But I have ulterior motives. I usually do when I enter a room. In this particular instance, my ulterior motive is that some of you might see some way in which the work that we do can help your clinical practice, your research problems that you are engaged in further along. And if that's the case, please shoot me an email and we can see whether that's true. And so my presentation is going to be giving you a little bit of the capabilities of the lab with that intent in mind, with the intent of trying to find intersectionality between what I'm interested in and what you would like to further. I'm an engineer. I don't have problems of my own. I'm jobless if you don't give me problems. So our lab focuses on solving hard and challenging problems in imaging and vision. And so if you have an imaging construct, a hard-to-access area, a hard-to-image subject, that's the kind of thing that I would like to hear about and talk to you about to figure out whether there are specific technologies that we can bring to bear to solve those problems. Specifically, the toolkit of how we go about designing these things is that you've all heard about AI, and typically AI and machine learning is used in the analysis of acquired data. The way we approach designing an imaging system or from some sensing system is to use AI in the loop, is to design systems that have lots of free degrees of parameters, and that these degrees can then be AI designed, so that the physical thing that you carry in your hand to image the cervix, as I will show you some examples, the physical thing that becomes a microscope for a neurosurgery that I'll show you in an example, is designed, the optics in that physical thing is designed through AI. So not just the algorithms, but the actual physical ingredient that we are building is AI designed. So this is my wonderful lab. They get to do all the hard work and get to put in all the nights and days, and I get to give this presentation here. So thanks to them. To give you an idea of the kind of problems we are interested in and the kind of problems where we can make an impact, I've given you a little bit of flavor of the kind of work that we do. On the left, we build wearable devices. Many of these wearable devices are wearable devices that go on your wrist, on your leg, for various clinical conditions where the things that might be within either the first millimeter of skin that are almost visible to the human eye, but not really visible to the human eye, can be measured with spatial resolution, precision, and dynamic range that is much better than the human eye, and can be integrated over time to give you a clinical picture. So the kind of devices you must be, in this example, that you should be thinking about is, let's say you want to quantify blood flow in a patient where you're doing vascular surgery. So that's an example of a device that can be very close to the skin and therefore can measure stuff about blood flow very close to the skin real time. Let's say you're interested in measuring vital sign parameters that manifest themselves in the blood flow, heart rate variability, pulse response time, perfusion, and perhaps extrapolate that to individualized blood pressure measurements real time. Those are the kind of things that these wearable devices can be used to measure. Miniaturized handheld imaging devices. So think ultrasound, but just think ultralight, right? So most of my lab works with light, non-ionizing radiation, so safe to use in many clinical conditions. There are advantages to using sound. You can look deep. You can look deeper with sound than with light, but there are real advantages to using light. It is that you get much higher resolution, much higher sensitivity, as long as the clinical construct you are interested in imaging is closer to the surface, is not very deep. And so we build handheld, portable, point-of-care imaging devices that can be used either in surgical settings, in point-of-care settings, and so on. What's shown here is a device that we call Precision View. Since there's no precision in the talk, at least there is precision in the title of the device. What this is giving you a high-resolution, micron-scale resolution imaging, real-time, of whatever surface you're looking at. Most of the surface in the human body, it's not very useful, but if you have surfaces in the human body, like the cervix, like the oral, there are places where high-resolution imaging can directly give you clinical insight. So this is currently being used for as a screening agent, can be used as a screening agent for oral cancer because you can look at the vascular loops in the oral mucosa. It can also be used for other applications such as cervical cancer screening as well. The next, we've designed also had similar exoscopes, microscopes, and so on, devices that can be used for neurosurgery as well. On the right, I'm showing you some of the projects that we've been working on in taking things that we can easily measure using wearables today and try to translate them into distance measurement. So can I take this measurement that I can easily measure today using wearables for non-contact measurement so that you can do this in various settings. The utility could be that you don't want to put wearables on newborns. The utility could be that you want to measure this as patients are entering and living in their free environment without riddling them with wearables. And so here we are showing you examples of the kind of things that you can measure using that. So heart rate variability, gaze, perspiration rate, respiration rate, these kinds of things. And finally, my lab works on AI tools for digital health broadly defined, and we use that for various computer vision and machine learning related projects that maybe here what I'm showing you is doing stenosis detection in a large corpus of X-ray radiograms. We've also worked on projects where we're doing tooltip tracking during surgery for surgical skills assessment, that kind of thing. Okay. So to give you a sense of scale and sense of the kind of devices we built, in the next few slides, I'm not going to give you a lot of details, just give you a texture of the work that we do. So on the top left is an ultra miniature lensless microscope. This is a device that was originally built as an implantable for measuring micron scale cellular resolution information from the brain, not for clinical applications, but for scientific discovery applications. On the right is a device that I showed you before, is an endomicroscope that is handheld and gives you cellular resolution. So what each of those dots that you see on the cell is a nucleus, and so you can get like 3 micron or thereabouts resolution. And on the same device, simultaneously, you also get the vascular channel, so you can see both the cellular, the nuclear, and the vasculature in the same device. One of the places where we've had a lot of projects is in surgical domain, and so I'll show you a couple of projects that we have been active in within the surgical setting. So here's an example where we've been using computer vision and machine learning tools to do automated surgical skills assessment. This is a joint work with Dr. Stedman and Marcy O'Malley, and so. Straightforward application of computer vision tools, so you can see the tooltip, but we do this tracking real time so that you can provide the same skills assessment scores that surgeons today provide, but do that automated and therefore perhaps be able to provide the surgeon, the resident who is learning a surgical skill, real-time feedback and hopefully enhance their learning experience. Here's another project where we've been able to move our devices into the OR for clinical validation purposes alone. In this example, we built a camera-based device for measuring perfusion, and what you can see here is validation of the device. So this by itself is not clinically useful. This data is not clinically useful, but what it shows you is the vasodilation that a patient encounters after anesthesia reflects in the measurements that we are getting on a non-contact device that's just looking at the patient's arm, telling you that the perfusion measurement has sufficient sensitivity for it to be clinically useful in this example. The final example I'm going to talk about is again in cancer margin detection, and here I'm going to highlight 2 projects. The first one is a large project that's funded by ARPA-H. What we are interested in here is to do cancer margin detection in the surgical unit as the tumor is excised. So currently, once a tumor is excised, if you wanted to know whether the margin the excised, that you've got all the tumor, then the only way to do that is to do frozen section and slide processing, which of course for most hospitals does not happen. There are a few places and few surgical indicators where it happens real time. And these few places are well-resourced places. And so what we are trying to see is whether the excised tissue, the actual surface of that excised tissue can be directly placed on a microscope without any flash freezing, without any microtoming, without any of the histological processing, and still be imaged more or less real time. And because you can do this all within 10 minutes, then the surgeon gets the feedback that the excised tumor is either positive margin, in which case they might have to excise more tumor, or negative margin, in which case the surgeon feels comfortable about the outcomes, the likely outcomes for the patient. This is a project that's currently joint collaboration with Rebecca Richards-Cortum's lab, and is funded by ARPA-H. And another very similar collaboration with Pablo Valdez, who's a neurosurgeon at UTMB. What we're doing is real-time surgical margin estimation, now not on the excised tissue, but on the tissue that is on the brain tissue that's left over in the patient. So here what we are showing you is essentially fluorescent guided brain surgery, and we're building real-time exoscopes and microscopes that either the surgeon can wear as a loop with a filter, or as an exoscope, so seeing a screen, or as a microscope, in all three formats, to be able to do fluorescent guided brain surgery to see the tumor margins being clearly delineated. And so with this slide, I'm going to stop talking with this slide, just giving you an overview of the kind of work we do. And again, all of this work is possible because of my excellent team, and I get to present here, and I'm here between you and coffee right now.